Alien Romulus is a brand new Alien film. It's the 7th film in the Alien franchise, the 9th film if you include the Alien vs. Predator movies, and it is the first Alien film that is made under Disney since Disney acquired Fox a couple of years ago. Now, this could either be good, or this could just be like any other Alien sequel after Aliens. Let's review. Alien Romulus follows a group of people that are trying to board the ship so that they can get some equipment off of this ship that has been abandoned, that make it up to space, and then make it onto that ship called the Romulus. They will soon find out that there is something else and dangerous afoot. And of course, if you've seen any other Alien film, you know exactly what it is. Now, if you've seen my review of every single Alien film, including the Alien vs. Predators movies, you know how I feel about each and every film. Now, if you've seen my reviews of every single Alien film up to this point, you know how I feel about each of them. The first one is a masterclass in sci-fi horror. The second one is a masterclass in sci-fi action. The third one, it took some admirable swings, but it failed. Resurrection, we don't talk about. Alien vs. Predator, a guilty pleasure amongst most people, but objectively speaking, not the best Alien film. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Next, Prometheus was divisive among a lot of people. Either you appreciated it for what it was doing, or you did not appreciate it for what it was doing. And the same could be said for Alien Covenant, which I prefer that over Prometheus, but I recognize Prometheus is a better film than Alien Covenant. And the franchise have had multiple directors over the years. Ridley Scott and James Cameron being the best of the best. David Fincher, of course, he's a great director today, but he disowns Alien 3. Ridley Scott returned to make Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and again, he took some bold swings with those two movies, but the studio ultimately decided we're not going to continue on with those. We decided to hire Fede Alvarez, who has made some great films like the Evil Dead reboot back in 2013, and Don't Breathe, which was one of my favorite films from the past decade, let alone favorite thrillers from the past decade. But as a whole, the Alien franchise, to me, is like the Terminator. The first two are great, and then everything else after that ranges from either good or bad, but mostly bad. But with Fede Alvarez, he gave me hope that he could deliver a good Alien movie that's just as good, if not better, than the original two movies. That's a tall order, but now that I've seen it, how do I feel? I liked it, up until a point. But let me explain. Now, let me just say right off the bat, Fede Alvarez did a fantastic job with this movie. He is clearly an Alien fan. He has a lot of reverence for those original two movies. He did a good job at creating the atmosphere that resembles those first two movies. He knows how to make movies that put you on edge and just stresses the fuck out of you. We've seen it in movies like Don't Breathe. And I appreciate that there is a good mix of practical and CGI imagery in this movie, especially when they're in space. And you can tell he actually built some actual sets for this movie. A criticism I've heard about this movie is that the crew is too young looking, which I get, but come on now. In this day and age, everybody's not just gonna look like how they did back in the 70s and 80s, alright? And plus, in context of the story, it makes sense why they're young looking. Now, the cast standouts to me are Kaylee Spinney, who is basically the Ripley stand-in, and she has a brother in this movie. Yes, David Johnson plays Andy, who is a android.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
Shut up, Bishop. But anyways, I like the dynamic between him and her, because even though they're not actual siblings, but they care deeply for each other, and he's kind of in dad mode the whole time because he's telling corny jokes and just has one mission, and that's keeping her safe. And then he also comes at a crossroads when androids from before him, they were more human, but then as they get advanced, they get less human, and then they start making irrational decisions. The other standout amongst the cast in this movie is Isabella Merced, who I'm not going to spoil much about her character in the movie, but she definitely brought her A game for this movie, and she had one of my favorite screens in recent years. That being said, the rest of the crew ranged from either you're a dick and I hope you bite it, but in a cool way, or I like you and I hope you survive the situation. And if you don't survive the situation, you have my sympathies. But overall, I was really loving this movie. up until the final act. I'm not going to spoil much, but let's just say they just started referencing lines and having callbacks, and there's even a character from the original Alien that shows up in this movie. They just started doing all this fan servicey stuff. Now, granted, it's not as over the top and in your face, but it still happened, and you can't help but feel that it was there. And all it really does is just remind you of those other movies. And there's even a point in the final act that it borrows from one of the lesser Alien films. And rather you think it was creative and it's cool, hey, that's up to you. And if you did, all power to you. But for me, it's just like, how you just gonna borrow from one of the worst Alien movies ever made? But the reason this is a criticism that stands out to me is just because it just feels like the studio didn't trust Fede Alvarez to make an Alien movie that stands on its own, and it just feels like Disney just stepped in and say like, hey, can you do this and that just to reference the other movies? We're trying to please our shareholders. In the end, I know it kind of feels like I'm shitting on this movie more than I actually wanted to. I really did enjoy this movie, and it's definitely without a doubt the best Alien movie since those first two, but it's not as good as those first two Alien films. It was almost there, I'll give it that, but it's just that final part of the movie, once they started referencing other things, it just brought the movie slightly down for me. That being said, I'm gonna give Alien Romulus the thumbs up emoji. And that is it. That is my review of Alien Romulus. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for watching these series of reviews. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and tell me, how do you rank the Alien films? What did you think of this movie? Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.